Right then, hello and welcome back to the Wildlife Moto channel. So we're out and about today on the R100CS, and going to make a couple of videos as we go through, I guess, the kind of logbook of tweaks and adjustments that I'm doing on this bike as we get it through its kind of break-in. So if you're new to the channel, new to this bike, it's had a complete rebuild, top end, bottom end on the engine. So there's a lot of tweaking and finessing and fine-tuning to do. So this is the post 250 mile check-in. We're slightly over that now, but I'm just going to update you on all the things that kind of happened over the last few days in terms of getting this bike where it is now. And there's a bit of a story. There's been plenty of things that have happened. So sit back and relax and enjoy a beautiful ride through the county of Essex, and I'll tell you all about what I've been up to on this beautiful 1981 BMW R100CS. First observation, what an absolutely cracking morning for it. And I'm taking every opportunity that I can to ride this beautiful old bike whenever the sun comes out. So I was quite amazed at how quickly I got up to 250 miles. And it hasn't all been plain sailing. So first ride I did on the bike, if you watched it, you'll know the bike was running absolutely beautifully, sounded lovely, everything was good. The situation kind of changed a bit as we kind of closed in on 200 miles. Things started riding a little rough, the engine felt a little bit vibey. I had some trouble getting the bike to start every now and again. So clearly things were drifting, as you probably expect on a freshly rebuilt old bike. But it did happen a little bit sooner, I suppose, than I anticipated. Yeah, so it was around 250 miles, the bike was getting a little bit, I wouldn't say totally unrideable, but a bit challenging and definitely not at her best. But that's all changed now, I've tuned it up. So with the bike really struggling to start, it's a bit of a telltale sign, isn't it, that something's not quite right. I was kind of going through all the usual checks, cleaned out the carburetors and all that, thinking, you know, maybe there's a little bit of gunk in one of the idle circuits, something like that, or the enricher circuits. I was just like, maybe it could be one of the jets, I don't know. So I cleaned them all out anyway, didn't really help. Next port of call was the valves. Now I was planning to do the valves anyway at 250 miles, but I didn't realise that they were going to be quite as tight as they were. They had really tightened up. Oh my god. Now you might remember me saying on the first video I left them a little bit sloppy on purpose, just a fraction on the loose side, because I suspected, you know, if things did tighten up, we want a little bit of play in there, a little bit of leeway, just in case. I'm very glad I did that, because yeah, they were super tight, super tight, especially on the right hand side. There was almost no clearance at all, so that was a little bit concerning. So rather than just do the valves, I actually got in there and did a few adjustments. So I completely slackened off all of the cylinder head bolts, and also took the opportunity to adjust the free play on the rocker arms. I just slackened off the cylinder heads, got a couple of sockets and a clamp, and just clamped it all together and retightened it. Now I'm sure there's probably some super expensive proper tool for doing that, but it worked. Essentially there's like a little bit of feel to it, I guess. The experts say that all you want to see when you pull on that little rocker arm is just a little bit of oil film moving. So you just want to see the oil kind of squidging in and out from the little joint there, but any more than that, any discernible up and down movement is definitely not good, and mine were moving around quite a bit. There was definitely quite a bit of play there. So yeah, taking that opportunity to get in there and set that end play as it should be, I think definitely has quietened the bike down a lot. I haven't got anywhere near as much clatter as I used to have. Remember me saying the valves felt quite kind of clattery before. But yeah, it's really quiet now. It's like a sewing machine. I can still hear the valves ticking away, which I think is a good thing, but it's not that kind of, you know, metallic clicky sounds that I was getting before. And I think a lot of that is down to just setting the kind of free play correctly, or should I say removing that free play from the system, and also just being super careful when tightening the cylinder head studs back on, you know, tightening the nuts back on those studs, because it's a little bit of a nerve-wracking one, isn't it? You've got to get them up to 25 foot-pounds, which feels like quite a lot for those little studs. Feels like quite a lot, but yeah, I got them all torqued up nicely, and it's been good since then. So valve clearance is done, retorqued the cylinder heads, sorted out the end play on the rocker arms. The other thing I did was just tweaked the timing again, because that had also drifted out a little bit. So that's just the electronic timing. We've got a little bean can hall sensor type thing that runs off of the cam shaft on this bike, and you've got to basically just offset it until you get everything lined up in terms of the timing markers and all that stuff. I had a bit of fun getting that right, because I got my strobe in there, realised that the timing was out, so slackened off the two Allen nuts on that, gave it a little tweak, and obviously tweaked it the wrong way. Went to start the bike, and my god, I've never seen so much smoke come out of a bike in my life. Obviously it's completely pushed it in the wrong direction, but now that I got it right again, she is absolutely lovely, running beautifully. And then the final thing that I've adjusted was, of course, the carburettors. Now, these Bing carburettors have been giving me a little bit of a headache, and I've realised what I've been doing wrong. So I've been of the understanding that these carburettors have to be dialed in when the bike is warm. So what I was doing was just leaving the bike out for a little bit, letting it warm up on tick over, and then going around and playing with my carburettors. That's a mistake, because the bike seemingly can never get properly warm enough if you just leave it on idle like that. And I was really chasing my tail for quite a lot of time, to be honest. I was playing around with trying to get the mixture right. I had all kinds of problems with the bike wanting to almost stall as I was picking up off of idle, so I was trying to dial that out, trying to get them to balance and sync properly, and just not really getting it into that sweet spot. Getting it kind of close, but yeah, it was really, I was on a bit of a hiding to nothing, I think, with that. So then I read on one of the forums, no, you've got to take the bike for a ride, you've got to ride it and adjust these carburettors when the bike's properly saturated with heat. So I thought, what the hell, I'll try it. And I got these things dialed in no time, and they are so sweet. It's honestly, the bike is just, it's gorgeous now. So the thing to do is my little tips. If you want some tips from somebody who's only just worked out what to do, here you go. Getting these things balanced up on idle is kind of one thing, and that is important, but really it's all about getting them to kind of rise at the same rate and making sure that they're still balanced when you get to kind of your cruising speed, so around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM. If you don't do that, if you just kind of obsess on getting them balanced at idle, it's no good. It's no good at all. So that's one of the things I learned. So it's really, actually, it's more about getting the tension on the throttle cables, I found. Absolutely bang on both sides. It's a little bit of trial and error. You've got to make sure that you've got enough free play in there, and you've got to make sure that you're really, you know, using your ears, but also if you've got like a carb tune or something like that, that's really what I've found to be the best way to do it. I know some of the old guys do the whole shorting out thing, where they short one cylinder and check the RPM and then short the other one and see if it matches. I don't know how accurate these tacks are, but using my Carb Tune Pro got the job done in no time, and it just feels like a different bike. You might remember me saying in my first video, you know, it feels like it kind of lugs a little bit. It feels like, I think I said it lets you know when you're not quite in the right gear. I think part of that, I think part of it might have been just braking, because a lot of it just kind of stopped doing that anyway. But now that I've got the carbs balanced, there's none of it. It's just like silky smooth throughout the entire rev range, and yeah, the whole thing feels properly gorge, beautiful. So the learning curve continues really on this bike. It's an ongoing process. I don't think I'm 100% there with it all yet. I think I've got close, but as I get to know the bike, get to know how it likes to be ridden, get a feel for it all, and get my head around how to properly dial this thing in, it just keeps getting better and better and better. It really does. Obviously, the other thing I did, I say obviously, might not be obvious, as is an oil change. So dropped the first batch of Silca Lube, which is the kind of mineral oil that I've been using on this bike, and replaced it like for like. And I'm pleased to say that there was no shavings or anything like that on the magnetic sump plug that I fitted. There was a little bit of, you know, kind of pasty metallic stuff, it's kind of a little bit of a black paste, but nothing, no kind of graininess, no big chunks of metal or anything like that. So that is obviously very good news. So I was pleased about that. I haven't changed the filter. I'll do another oil change and a filter change at about 500 miles, I think, which at this rate won't be long. It'll probably be next couple of rides. So I've also taken this bike out for a couple of short rides with Sam on it, and she absolutely loves it. Really comfortable on the back. She loves the bike, loves the look of it, and really just enjoys being on it. That's really quite important, because the purpose of this bike was really to go and do some proper tours and things like that, and we like to ride two up. And if she's not happy, then I'm not going to be happy. So I'm really happy that she's happy. It was a bit of a important box to tick, really, because I don't know if you've ever gone out and bought a bike thinking, yes, we're going to do some two up touring on this, and then, you know, the wife gets on the back and she hates it, and that's that. You're done. It's not happening. Let's do a little adjustment on the foot pegs for her, but no, it's all good. It's all good. Oh, that exhaust note is beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm really getting used to how this bike sounds. I'm not kind of panicking about it all so much now. I know that valve chatter is normal. I know, but it's not a kind of silky smooth inline four. Just kind of getting used to the feeling of it, and the sounds and the smells and its characteristics. And I think the more you dial yourself into it, the more you just think, I'm just going to enjoy riding this bike rather than freaking out the whole time. So the other thing I'm planning to do on this bike is a little upgrade on the electronic ignition system. So I'm going to change out the 42-year-old bean can for something a little bit more modern. I'm probably going to go for a wedge tail system on this bike, which, just like the stock system, it runs off of the cam rather than the crank. Can get crank mounted optical systems and things like that, but I've heard kind of mixed reviews on those. I think there's some reliability issues with the heat on the front of the engine and some of those systems, but the wedge tail seems to just kind of like for like replace that kind of canister that sits on the front of the bike, but with just more modern components. So you change the ignition control module for their own system, and then you change out the canister. It uses all the same kind of wiring and plugs and all that stuff, so pretty easy to get done. But it should be a whole lot more reliable. I'm not really doing it from a performance standpoint, because there's nothing wrong with the system that's currently in here. It's more just reliability. You know, I absolutely don't trust going on a really long trip with a 42-year-old hall sensor up front here. Might be absolutely fine, but why risk it when I've gone to all the lengths I've been through to get everything else sorted? Oh Christ, they don't look anymore, do they? How have I managed to get a bug on the inside of my visor? Get out of here, man. No, you're still there. Alright, fair enough. So last night I actually went out and saw the Bike Riders with Austin Butler and what's his name? Tom Hardy. I won't spoil it for you, but it was alright, actually. If you can kind of stomach all of the usual biker cliches and all the pouty stuff from Austin Butler, and not a huge amount of story, I mean just a kind of interesting journey through the formation of that particular gang. It's based loosely on a true story, but yeah, it's a bit of fun actually. Bit of fun. Went down there with my wife and my 17-year-old son, and they both loved it. Right, we have horses. Here we go. Giddy up, horsies. Love this road. Absolutely gorgeous road heading down to Finching Field. Doesn't get much better than this, does it? Suspension's starting to break in quite nicely as well on this bike. It feels real plush. I was a little bit worried about these Hagans because some people say they are a little bit on the harsh side, but no, I haven't noticed too much of it. They have been sprung just for me by the guys at Hagan, and they've done a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Even two up with Sam, they are beautiful. Anyway, so here we are at an old Finching Field, and there are a lot of bikes here today, which is always nice to see. So yeah, I'm going to grab a cuppa, and that marks the end of our second little shakedown ride. Have a good day now.